Today I want to talk to you about 6 strategies for travelling with IBS. My name is Susan Pellezzini and I'm the creator of several low Fodmap coaching programs and the author of 2 low Fodmap cookbooks. Recently I travelled to Costa Rica, Guatemala and also spent a couple of days in San Francisco. I travel a lot, but that was my latest trip and I want to tell you about the strategies that I put in place to make sure that I had no problems for the whole trip. Let's start with strategy number 1, which is the plane trip. Our plane trip was in 3 parts and took 24 hours for us to get to Guatemala City. So now they have in most airlines a choice of a bland diet when you are asked about what food you want to eat. You can go gluten-free, lactose-free, etc. They also have a bland diet. I discovered that afterwards, but that probably is a very good choice. I can't imagine putting things like garlic and onion onto a bland diet. But anyway, what I do when I travel is I choose, there's always 2 choices. I choose the simplest choice, which is perhaps a piece of grilled chicken with some seasonal vegetables and maybe some potato. If there's a sauce on that, I just scrape it off. It's normally just like a little gravy sauce, just in case it has an onion or garlic base, and those are my big triggers. So I scrape the sauce off and I eat the rest. Now, when you're up in a plane and you're at altitude, there are certain issues with extra gas anyway, but don't think that's just your problem because you've got IBS. It's a problem for everybody on the plane. You will have excess gas. So that's what I do for the food. Now I also make sure that I take some food with me on the plane because sometimes there's a very long gap between one meal and the next. And with IBS we have to eat 5 small meals a day with about 3 hours in between, and that gap is too long. So take some snacks with you that you know you can eat. It could be just something like some gluten-free crackers with some cheese. Now you're not going to want to sit on that for too long while you're in the plane. You will be eating that fairly soon because the cheese is in the fridge. But also at nicer foods, you can buy low Fodmap food bars that are packaged that you can take with you. So I'm sure you'll work out something that will be suitable. We all have different triggers, therefore there are different things that you'd be able to take. I don't have a problem with the fructose in wheat, or not a major problem, and I don't have a lactose problem. So sometimes I'll just take a little chocolate bar with me, just in case. You know, one of those with some substantial stuff in them that includes perhaps a bit of lactose and a bit of gluten. Now, once you're there, let's talk about finding a suitable restaurant to eat in. So go to a district where there's a lot of restaurants, and every city has a district like this, and go along and read the menus of several of them and make a decision on the one that looks like it has possibly a few dishes that would suit you, maybe with a couple of alterations, and then make that choice, go inside, sit down, and of course you're going to have your laminated card with you. When I went to Guatemala and Costa Rica, where they speak Spanish, I had my laminated card already written up in Spanish for no garlic and no onions. Those together with wheat and lactose are the things that can be hidden in food. I'm not worried about the things that I can see written on the menu or that I could see on my plate, like if there was some asparagus. I just simply wouldn't eat it. So things that are hidden are what have to be on your laminated card, and you make sure that you show that to your wait staff and get them to take it out to the kitchen. Because it's a bit like Chinese whispers. The waitress reads what's on the card, but she tells the kitchen something different. So make sure she takes that out. So discuss with her a dish that looks pretty friendly, pretty Fodmap friendly, and then show her the card and ask her if that's possible and get her to check in the kitchen. So let's say your meal has come out and you're not completely sure still if they've done it correctly. So again, ask the waitress, is this free of your trigger foods? So in my case, I say, is this onion and garlic free? And I tell her that I'm allergic to those foods. I've already told her in the beginning, but I tell her again. And I emphasize, I will get really sick right here at the table if this food has any onions or garlic in it. Nearly always, they will run back to the kitchen and double check, because that really scares them that they might have got that wrong. Now, when I was in Guatemala, I was in a small tour group of 6 of us with a driver and a tour guide. And at one particular restaurant, I was waving around my laminated card, and the tour guide came up, and he normally sat at a different table. He came up and he says, what are you doing? What are you trying to explain? And I said that I can't have garlic or onions in my food, and I want to make sure. So he spoke to the waiter, and I could hear telling him very clearly and very emphatically that no garlic or onions. I speak Italian and Spanish, there's a lot of similarities, so I knew what he was saying. And the waiter went away, and my meal arrived, and alongside the meat and the other vegetables that were ordered were 2 spring onions. In their entirety, they'd been fried or grilled, sitting on my plate. And I looked at him and I pointed at the spring onions, and he gasped, grabbed the plate and ran off with it, then came back with the spring onions gone. Now, the funny thing, if you can call it funny, was my next course came with onions sprinkled liberally over the top of the salad. Again, I pointed, he gasped, and he ran away. There's a bit of a pattern to this. But anyway, he brought it back without the onions, and it was a fresh salad, because I can tell if there's any of the flavour left in it. So check beforehand and check after. So strategy number 3 is always check once the food arrives as well. Now strategy number 4 is to really stand up for yourself. Don't let yourself get pushed around. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be worried about what other people think. When I was in Costa Rica at the Tortuguero National Park at the Pachira Lodge there, we were in a group of people with a tour guide. It was a fairly large group of people for this poor tour guide, but he was excellent. Anyway, we ate buffet style the whole time we were there, and all the meals were included. So one day, the first day, I walked along the length of the buffet, and I couldn't communicate very well with the people behind. They really weren't understanding, or they didn't know what was in the food. So I went to him and I said, I need to eat garlic and onions free. Can you please advise me or find out what I can eat? He went out to the kitchen, came back and said, there's nothing there that doesn't have garlic or onions, incredibly. He said, but the kitchen will make you a meal that's garlic and onion free, and they will do that for every meal while you're here. I was there for 2 days, and they did. So standing up for yourself, speaking out is essential, and you will get the results that you want, which is a calm gut. Now, strategy number 5, which I've already mentioned on the plane, is to keep snacks with you all the time. And how I do this when I'm on holiday is that nearly always the breakfast is included in the accommodation. So at breakfast I eat a very small amount of food because of the fact that we can't eat large amounts at any one time or we have symptoms. So I am completely guilt-free in taking some of the food with me away from the restaurant. When I leave New Zealand, I cut out several pieces of tin foil and I fold those into 4 and take them with me. And every morning I take one of those pieces of tin foil with me to the breakfast with my handbag, and I wrap up something that I know I can eat in it so that I've got some snacks during the day. And that served me really well on this trip, because especially in Guatemala, we had long travel days and there were very few stops, even for the toilet. So I had to open up my tin foil and eat it in the coach. All right, so the last strategy that I have is simply about what to drink. I drink water. It's got no Fodmaps and it's safe. Everything else has Fodmaps in it. I mean, if you can get a cranberry juice that's really low in sugar and no other additives, that should be fine, because we are supposed to be able to have 1 glass of cranberry juice. But fructose is my major trigger, along with the onions and the garlic, so I don't even have that. And water is fine. It's what we're meant to have. Have you ever seen an animal drinking orange juice or cranberry juice? Now, I did have the occasional glass of wine. We know that 1 glass is Fodmap friendly, even though the alcohol is a gut irritant, so we just have to go carefully on that. But I had the occasional glass of wine, and because I was eating everything else low Fodmap, I didn't have any problems from that at all. So there's my 6 strategies for traveling with IBS. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Ready to take the fast track to an IBS-free life? I'll show you how. Get started now. Check out the details at strandsofmylife.com/IBS-free. Your reward will be a joyful, symptom-free life.